Good day, everyone. Our report is all about policies of agrarian reform. Land ownership in the Philippines under Spain, pre-Spanish era, has its own government. Land was not unequally distributed before the Spaniards came to the Philippines. The notion of private property was unknown. Then the community or barangay owned the land. Barangay is a small independent village that is ruled by a datos of chiefs. Datos comprise the nobility. Then maharlika or freemen came, followed by the aliping sanggigilid or slaves. Money was unknown, and rice serves as the medium of exchange. Pre-Spanish era, there are government, language and writings, law, and literature. In pre-Spanish era government, Spain established a centralized colonial government in the Philippines that was composed of a national government that administered provinces, cities, towns, and municipalities. In form, therefore, the pre-Spanish government of the country was monarchy, with the dato, like other monarchs, rising to the power mainly by inheritance, although there were other ways such as wisdom, physical prowess, and wealth, whereby anyone could become the chiefs of the states. In pre-Spanish era, language and writings. Tagalog, that the Philippines has been civilized long before the Spaniards' arrival, is evidenced by an ancient form of Tagalog that has a conventional writing system known as baybayin, used among different ethnic groups, as well as the widespread literacy before Spanish colonization. Gonzales and Cortes, 1988, Tan, 1993. In pre-Spanish era, law. During the pre-Spanish era, law was laid down by the Maharlikas, Council of Elders, but chosen by the dato. No elections were held to designate them under the military government, 1877 to 1901. Law was promulgated by the military government. General Order No. 58 governed criminal procedure up to 1940. In pre-Spanish era literature. Pre-Spanish literature is characterized by legends. Legends are a form of prose that common theme of which is about the origin of thing, place, location, or named events are imaginary, devoid of truth, and unbelievable. Old Filipino customs are reflected in these legends. Spanish period, 1521 to 1898. Private land was introduced. With this arrangement, every municipal resident was given their choice of the land cultivation or free tax. The concept encomendas or royal land grants was introduced. Encomendas is a kind of ownership that the large tracts of uncultivated lands not circumscribed within a given municipality were granted by the Spanish monarch to deserving Spaniards, were granted to favor Spanish officials and clerics who were entrusted the responsibility to look after the spiritual and temporal development of the natives in a territory. In return for such a duty, the encomendas enjoyed his right to have a share in the tribute paid by the natives. Much later, in place of encomendas, the Spanish authorities began to group together several barangay into administration units and termed these units as pueblos or municipios, which were governed by Gobernador Celos.
Post-war intervention toward agrarian reform. Agrarian reform is a complex of policies designed to transform rural society in the power among groups and classes, and greater equality of opportunity for individuals, where agrarian reform has usually involved the redistribution of land. Under the term of President Elpidio Quirino, as part of his agrarian reform agenda, President Quirino issued on October 23, 1950, Executive Order No. 355, which replaced the National Land Settlement Administration with Land Settlement Development Corporation, which take over the responsibilities of the Agricultural Machinery Equipment Corporation. And under the President Ramon Magsaysay administration, President Magsaysay enacted the following laws as part of his agrarian reform. Republic Act No. 1160 of 1954 abolished the Lasidico and established the National Resettlement and Rehabilitation Administration to resettle dissident and landless farmers.
Land ownership in the Philippines under Americans. The Americans here, aware that the main cause of social unrest in the Philippines was landlessness, and they attempted to put an end to the deplorable condition of the tenant farmers by passing several land policies to increase the small landholders and distribute ownership to a bigger number of Filipino tenants and farmers. The agrarian problem worsened during the American period. Population explosion. Rural migration and population growth have led to the rise of informal settlements on public lands and idle private lands in urban and peri-urban areas. New Land Policy, Republic Act No. 9700, an act strengthening the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, or the CARP, extending the acquisition and distribution of all agricultural land, instituting necessary reforms, amending for the purpose certain reforms. Provision of Republic Act No. 6657, otherwise known as the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law of 1988. As amended and appropriating fund therefore. Agricultural increase. American rule did not deter the U.S. faith in commercial agriculture. Rather, administrators blamed peasants' resistance to land ownership for lost failure and argued that large plantation and sharecropping was the Philippines' best path to develop. Free Trade America. The philosophy of this special relationship is to give preferential treatment to the Philippine export in the United States and accord national treatment to Americans and business in the Philippines. New industries. Goodyear, tire and rubber, Singer sewing machine, and 3 American-owned oil companies, Caltex, GT, and Mobil, have completed the transfer of their lands. Improvement of transportation and communication. The U.S. did this by creating infrastructure that would improve the literacy and economy of the country. As a result, literacy doubled to about half by the 1930s, and a fourth of the educated population could speak English. They introduced new and increasingly efficient forms of transportation, roads and railways, by providing fast and convenient modes of land-based transportation, while government subsidies stem ships transportation, mail freight, and passenger to remote coastal settlements and urban centers.